you hope that God does with this book?
Oh, well, as you know, I'm an apologist at heart. I'm a fighter. I want to defend the Christian worldview on all fronts. And so, I go into this with, how can we defend the Christian view of manhood? Basically, Christian view of manhood is under attack, vicious attack, and often from Christians too. You did mention Jesus and John Wayne. I was careful not to mention that in my book.
You did. I saw you mention the John Wayne. You didn't mention Jesus and John Wayne, but I saw, and there's other books that are out there.
No, I had Jesus. I do have Jesus and James Bond as a subtitle. But I didn't want to get involved in fights, but it is true that even Christian books are out there attacking Christian men. And so at heart, my goal is to defend the Christian understanding of men and women, and especially masculinity, since that's what's under attack. And, one thing we didn't touch on, it might be worth talking about a bit, is people do say, well, what do you think is the difference between men and women then? And so I had to put that in chapter 1 too. It's one of those questions you just have to cover at the beginning. And I just say, hey, let's start with biology. You can't really argue with biology because most of the controversial things are whether you talk about women's mental abilities and intelligence. Well, let's start with biology. Men are bigger, faster, stronger. They have more fast twitch muscles. That's a word I had to learn. It means you can react more quickly. They have 75% greater upper body muscle mass, 90% greater upper body strength. And testosterone does make men more aggressive, more risk-taking. And these are good. These are created abilities that God made men to have, and therefore they are good. And we have to find ways to communicate, that we value, we support the way God made men. And the reason that people often resist wanting to acknowledge differences is because as soon as you acknowledge a difference, you kind of imply someone else is less than. So it's very important that we don't imply that women are less than because they're not physically as strong. And we can talk about, sticking just to biology again, women's superpower is having kids. And we have to acknowledge that too is a strength. And that, taking care of a newborn takes an enormous amount of character. It means you have to be willing to be interrupted at any time during the day, and stop whatever you're doing, whether you want to or not. 3 a.m. for the feeding. You have to be, when a baby is in distress, you don't scold it, you don't reason with it. You alleviate its distress. You have to become incredibly sensitive to nonverbal cues because the baby can't talk yet. Right. And you have to become very sensitive to threats in the environment. This is why women have become mama bears, because they have to, in a sense, identify with their child's vulnerability in order to be aware of threats in the environment. So these are all very positive character qualities. And I think we don't spend enough time saying what's good about the uniquely female qualities, because the masculine qualities have been held up as better. I mean, so much of the feminist movement is saying, oh, men do this, well, we can do it too, which is, often true. But it also tends to say that whatever men do is the standard. So I think it's important that we say, no, there are uniquely women's strengths, feminine strengths as well, and hold these up as character strengths. And men have more testosterone, women do have more estrogen, and estrogen is known as one of the bonding hormones. It makes them more relational, it makes them more connected. And so, this is what we bring, what we bring to the table, and it should be valued as much as men's strengths are.